So are Kumasi ASANTE KOTOKO in trouble? Well, we are here to find out. Prosper Ogun has played 2 games and hasn't picked up a win this season. And yes, they are going through a transition phase after getting rid of some of their aging players, and then they brought in newer ones. For example, the Kalo Watawa deal from Brekum Chelsea, and a talented defender in the name of Henry Ansu. Of course, they also brought in newer players such as Intim Menu, Bernard Suama, and Amoa. So what you can see is that they are trying to build a new team from scratch, and they are trying to make it new and improve. So what is the difference between what they did in the first game against Pando House of Lions and the second game against Bibiani Gold Stars? Because as we saw, they did not win any game from those 2 games. So they used the first starting lineup that you see here is the game against Bibiani Gold Stars, whilst the second one is the game against House of Lions. Now, Prosper Ogun was trying to be unpredictable, and he used a certain formation during those 2 games. So this is the lineup and the formation he used between the 2 games that were played. So this was a team that started against both Hearts of Lions and Bibiani Gold Stars. Now, Hearts of Lions and Bibiani Gold Stars, they were all using the same formation of the 4-3-3, the dreaded 4-3-3 that has been plaguing our league because we always want to be more football-oriented based. Now, normally for Prosper Ogun's teams, they would always normally shift playing in a 4-2-3-1, something like this. When he came to the league at the first time of asking, he actually used the same 4-2-3-1. This time with Infege being at the side, with maybe Mukwala in the wings, and at the same time, who remembers Zimbella? He was the one that was patrolling at the backside, and then maybe Fabio Gama will be switching and all that. But this time he played differently. He played a 4-4-2 diamond, and now people are going to ask us, why is the 4-4-2 diamond important? Well, it's simple. When it comes to Prosper Ogun's teams, they always like to play what we call high possession football. So I can give you a good example of this high possession football. They normally like to press teams because they always want the ball long. They want the ball long forward instead of it being a back from the passing from the back. They always want it forward, and they normally want the second balls to be recovered. So in this game, he decided to do the same thing, but this time he always told his players to press high up the pitch. So someone like Ziggy was always pinning the person from number 6. So if the goalkeeper decided to pass the ball, he couldn't. So that was an issue. But as I said, they were trying to do this to frustrate the team. So they were pressing in this manner, as you can see here. So there you go. It looks like this. And he would always tell the players to space out, mostly the center half, so that they can give that offensive cover and width, so that the fullbacks at the time, the Japan and they could move forward. Now the problem about this is that when the House of Lions were kicking the ball up, the guys in the middle here, they were not that big enough. So most of the times when they kicked the ball, the second ball always ended up in House of Lions. Whereas in previous years when Prosper Ogun was in charge, when the ball was hoofed up, the defenders would always normally get the ball and then send it out wide, or maybe send it back to the next player, and they would retain possession. But this time around, it couldn't happen. And whilst they were playing against a House of Lions team, the problem was always manifesting, and they couldn't even get chances. They were even trying to, space out and trying to mark other players. So normally the Infenge and Tramina, they were, because it is a diamond, he wanted it to be like a 4-3-3, but with Ziggy, who is the most advanced forward in the midfield, to be the false 9 or the false striker. So most of the times when they got the ball at these areas, Ziggy was the one pressing. So this number 6 was here, then the number 4, number 2, then number 3. As I said, they did the same system twice, so we are not going to change much. Then the number 10, then the number 8, then the number 7 being out wide with the number 11. So as I said, we're trying to press it out, but the thing about it is that instead of them pushing it forward, they always pushed it at the side. So House of Lions basically were keeping some of the possession in their half, but they weren't trying to score or they weren't making chances. It was only because of a certain lack of concentration that enabled that team to move. Because as I said, Kotoko, they were pressing high up the pitch, and the rule is simple: you win the second ball, you know what to do with this, because now you can make these passing triangles that you've been seeing on normal English or European football for a long time around. So they were just moving the ball up and down, they were trying, and even the wingers like this, the strikers like this, they were always going out wide because, as I said, because he is the attacking player or the most attacking player from this diamond midfield, he was going to be like their false nine, so that the players would be able to cut inside and worry the fullbacks, pinning them backwards so that they can play that type of football. So it was something like this. They would try to pin them backwards, the striker, as you can see here. But then the midfield, they wanted to assert themselves, so they were always wide, just to make sure that when the players were there, they could cut inside. So the problem was that they couldn't win that game, and they drew that game 0-0, and he sent it into the next game of the other match. So now in the second game against Bibiani Gold Stars, Kumasi ASANTE KOTOKO, they also did the same thing, but this time they changed it up a bit. And now they played the same 4-4-2 diamond, but there were a little bit of changes to the lineup. As you can see here, this is just a graphical representation. As I said, Infege and Mukwala, they were the wingers, and Dramina was just offering the support for Carlo Ouattara, who at the time was told to drop back inside to let Dramina get in front of him with Mukwala and Infege, who are, you know, their strikers, telling them to move inside or wide out when they came to the pressing. So as I will show you, it looked like a 4-3-1-2 again, as I said, or a 4-4-2 diamond, as you can see here. So as I said, it looked like this because Ouattara was told not to go and mark the center halves directly, but was told to monitor these midfielders. Because don't forget, Ouattara, when he was at Chelsea, he was a striker, but what was needed about him was that because he was very, very big and tall, he could be able to win mostly the first balls for the second balls. So that's why he was always told to drop in, because there was a portion in the game where Asari himself, because Bibiani Gold Stars were also doing their own type of marking, it wasn't really that man-to-man, it was mostly the zonal areas. For example, they weren't really trying to force the defenders into making mistakes. They were just trying to let them get past the first build-up play, which was going to be this side of the area, just to give them that sort of width, so that when they pass the ball out, they could move it. But then when it gets to Jereku or Ejapon, they were told to, you know, cramp the midfield, make sure that nothing went into their area, and it mostly looks something like this. It's not really that perfect, but as I can say, this is just a graphical illustration. So they just wanted to cram the midfield because, as we said, Kotoko were playing more central, but they were making their wingers go wide. So the issue about it was that because they were making their players go central, it allowed for Jedeku, who was supposed to be a fullback at the time, to be a wing back and worry their right back over here. Japan was mostly staying central with Ansu, form something like a 3-back center pairing, with Infege normally dropping here to form maybe a back 5 or a 3-5-2, with Ouattara dropping inside, Mukwala helping Jereku with the ball. So they were trying to create these triangle passes. As I said, they were just trying to move the ball on a pitch that they've not played for a while, because last year when they played on it, they did win. But this time around it's very different, because now they are the ones trying to create the spaces. And yes, Asari, the goalkeeper at the time, he made mistakes and they conceded 2 goals, and then they were able to score again. But even with that goal, it was basically set out in this form and in this manner. So as they were trying to pass it out from the back through this goalkeeper here, Ouattara, who was the deepest marking man, was marking the 6th, and Infege, because the centre halves were separated, and Mukwala, they were all here, which meant Gamina, who was supposed to be marking the number 10, decided to step infield, which led to the passing movement, which led to the goal. So as I said, they were just trying to play it out from the back, something like this. And as you can see here, they have all done their jobs, because now the player here, the goalkeeper at the time, now is looking for players to pass to, but because Infege is not making a run that is mostly this way, he was going this way. So now it makes it simple for the defender to make a mistake, or the goalkeeper at the time to make a mistake, because he was thinking that he was going this way, so he would pass it to the number 6, and then the number 11 would come in for a Japan to mark. But because he did it this way, Infege was already able to run in and then find Gamina for the goal. So as I said, this team is not really that complete. They are trying to play out from a certain scenario. They are not trying to be predictable, because as as Prosperity Ogun came to the league, he played a simple 4-2-3-1. This time around in the second game, he did that, but he just made a little bit of a tweak to play something like a diamond, just to give that bit of unpredictability. But sometimes it can cost you at that time, because he loves to play these high lines. Yes, they are good because you want to retain possession faster, but sometimes getting it faster is becoming an issue, because even at the time of getting the ball fast from your opponent, if you don't win the second balls, mostly I always say that mostly in Ghana football, it's the second balls that determine what you do going forward as a footballer. Since they didn't win the second balls, they were caught lacking, and then they lost the balls, the game by 2 goals to 0. So Kumasi ASANTE Kotoko in trouble. Well, yes and no. Yes, because they are trying to play the same system but with different variations, and the same variations or the different type of variations are the same problems that are giving them the defensive lapses. Because under Seydou Zerbo, yes, defensively they were dependent, but offensively they weren't good. This time around, Prosperity Ogun comes in, tries to give them that offensive flair that people have been looking for in Accra, but then all of a sudden at the same time he makes a mistake and it doesn't work well, because the center halves are now being told to press high up the pitch as usual, causing these gap lines to fall into their game. Now, should we say Kumasi ASANTE Kotoko are in trouble and they should sack their coach? No, because it's only 2 games into the season and they've already found their kryptonite on what formation not to play, especially in the league, because a 4-3-3, yes, it does give balance at the time for the opposition teams, but because they are always packing their players in midfield, it becomes very, very difficult for the other team to even try to establish themselves going forward, because at times you would only see one striker against these 2 center halves when it should be maybe a 4-on-4 or 4-on-3. So normally you will see these types of movements and they would always be at a disadvantage, because Kotoko would have like 2 to 5 bodies inside their own half trying to make sure that these balls don't get inside, causing the midfield to have a passing problem, because they have the ball but they don't know what to do with it. And as you can see in the tendency situation, by the way, this tendency is not a correct measurement, it's just a graphical representation of what would have happened if the chances goes in. So as I said, the higher the tendency, the higher of chance of scoring, the lower the tendency, the lower the chance of it scoring. So most of the times you can see a penalty in that app would have maybe a 0 tendency, but it would have shown as a goal. That's because of the tendency or the ability to try and pass it out from the back or play it out from the back to the front to score. So Kumasi ASANTE Kotoko are not yet in trouble and they shouldn't hit the panic button yet. However, they do need to find ways and means to play and create those tactics that made them more successful in the Ghana Premier League when they won it at Prosperity Ogun's first attempt at Kumasi ASANTE Kotoko.